Welcome to Your Family Dog, the podcast where we celebrate the special bond between families and their canine companions. Whether you're a parent, grandparent, considering bringing a furry friend into your family, this show is for you. Each episode, we dive into topics that matter: training tips, health advice, the newest research, heartwarming stories, and expert interviews, both canine and human. Our goal is helping families and dogs grow up together, one episode at a time. Thanks for joining us. Welcome back to the Your Family Dog podcast. Today we're talking with Emily Breslin, a dog trainer, retired vet tech, a certified professional canine nutritionist, and host of The Dog Who Asked for More, a podcast helping dog parents find calm, confidence, and connection through training, enrichment, and nutrition that actually works in real life. And we're so excited to have Emily here today. Welcome to the show, Emily. I can't wait to hear about all your enrichment ideas and how to do it both with food and without food. So welcome back to the show.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here. Talking about enrichment and nutrition are pretty much my favorite topic. So I always love it when I get a chance to get really into it.
I think those are fun for most dog trainers.
Yeah,
right?
for
Because we
sure.
could talk about how nutrition impacts behavior and start a conversation about how that can also contribute positively or negatively to health stuff as well.
Absolutely.
And I think there's a big belief in dog training and for pet parents too, that all enrichment is related to food. And I love that your take is not the same as that. So can you share a little bit more about non-food related enrichment ideas?
Sure. So we have some favorites. One of our favorites is an obstacle course, and you can do this indoors or outdoors. We have some pretty cheap agility equipment that we got on Facebook Marketplace. And we just kind of pieced together our own little set. So we have like a hoop that we can jump through. And we also have a hula hoop that we do various things with. We have a bar that can be jumped over. We have a little square that you can put on the ground and create little games with. We have a ball pit. We have lots of different things. And we just kind of set it up and I throw the ball and Fitz goes through things and around things and digs in things, and that's really fun. But you can also do it inside because you can gather up items within the household. And this could be, brooms, chairs, pillows, even, larger pieces of furniture if you want to move your living room around a little bit. Just kind of random items that might be novel or something, that your dog's never experienced before, and just kind of put it in the mix. And something that I think is really fun about this that you can do with the family all together is you can maybe pick items, everybody pick an item and then bring it back. And then everybody go pick another item until you have like a nice little pile of, 8 or 10 things, and then just kind of distribute them around and help the dog experience them. And you can sprinkle treats in there if you think the dog might not go over it or go in it or sniff it or step on it or whatever it is that you decide you want them to do. But it can become just this little game that's kind of fun for everybody to watch because the dog is experiencing something that they've never experienced before. You can change it every single time. And it can just be, a really fun activity. Another favorite is one that goes outside, which is Swift Paws, which is a luring course. So it's a little system of pulleys that you put a flag on a string, and you can change, it can be a triangle, it can be a diamond, it can be a square, it can be a circle, it can be a straight back and forth line. And you teach your dog how to chase the flag. And let me tell you what, I have a very busy dog and it wears him out. Those are some of our best days. When I get that out, I always know that he's, ready to go because he gets so excited about that. But those are just some pretty simple ones that don't include food. Scent games are a whole different level. I have a video on YouTube that you can watch to teach your dog how to learn how to play scent games. And those are super fun because you can do things like hide and seek, which means, you can stick it in another room, you can stick multiple things around the house. And once they identify that scent, that becomes a way for them to use their nose, which most dogs don't use their nose. I read somewhere that 68% of dogs don't know how to use their nose anymore, which is wild to me because they don't forage for their food. They don't have to explore environments. They don't have to think about what's around them and maybe be as precautionary as they would have out in the wild. So they just don't use their nose the way that it's meant to be used, which is crazy, but that's also why enrichment is so important.
Well, I think it results in a much more balanced brain in the dog to be able to explore some of their dogdom. And I think it's really good for humans to be sometimes humbled a little bit that their dog's nose is as extraordinary as it is. I personally, in my practice, do a lot of the things that people complain about their dog, like my dog gets out, tries to get on the counter, or my dog tries to get in the trash can, or my dog is always finding socks. I always think that that's information that when we give that dog the opportunity to pursue that scavenging behavior, but in a more positive way, it results in less inappropriate scavenging. So, kind of like when we give our kids some fidget widget to use when they're fidgety, to prevent nose picking or scab picking, as an example, or hair pulling. Maybe one of those expressions of fidgeting that's not as healthy and we maybe don't want to really encourage. Where I think people sometimes think if they give their dog a foraging game, let's say they do food scatters in the grass, they're afraid that that means it's going to encourage foraging in the house. Have you found that to be the case or not?
No, I agree with you. I think that giving our dogs an outlet that is a positive outlet in which we allow them to express natural behaviors then builds that same kind of pattern and repetition in their brain as their training does. And so they know, when we get that certain bag of snacks out and go out in the yard that we're going to scatter the food, they know that that's an appropriate time to do it. They get excited about it. It's something fun for them to do. That's something that I like to do with the ball pit is take the treats and scatter it in the ball pit and let them dig around in the balls and get all the treats out because now they're digging and they're foraging and they're just using multiple parts of their body and brain to get through problem solving. And when we give our dogs healthy problems to solve, they're less likely to dig through the laundry or the trash or destroy something because they've already had that outlet for the day. So they're not going to seek that on their own.
Exactly. I find that like food scatters out in the grass work really, really well when mom and dad like I don't know. An example would be like my child explodes, right? We're having big feelings about things. Being able to grab a handful of kibble, open the back door, and sling it out into the yard for the dogs to go find, assuming they're not going to argue with each other, is a great way to get the dogs out of the situation and let mom or dad's brain or both be in the situation that we're navigating with either my parent or children or grandchildren that gives the dog a break, but allows the caretaker with the kiddos to do what they need to do and the freedom to do that.
Yeah, and I mean, especially like right now here in Iowa, we have leaves down everywhere. So if you don't want to throw food, take some of your dog's toys out in the backyard or some of their balls or stuffed animals or whatever and just bury them in the leaves. And then let your dog go find them. I mean, it's the same thing. They're looking for things that they like. They know the scent of them and they're getting out those expressive behaviors while getting to play and chew and romp around in the leaves. It's
And
it's
make a
so
mess.
fun to watch. Yeah, and it's so fun to watch because, leaves are flying everywhere, their tail is wagging and they're just, diving into piles of leaves. It's just great. It's just I think it's so fun when we take a step back and don't worry like you said about the mess and just kind of let our dogs be dogs. I don't think enough people let their dogs be dogs.
Well, and I'll tell you, a really easy ball pit is your bathtub,
Yeah.
right? It's like put the drain thing on and you're good to go. Like you don't have to necessarily And you could do the same thing. You don't have to necessarily buy things. You can do the same thing by like collecting up your recycling bottles and cleaning them, taking all the labels and stuff off of it and chucking those in the bathtub too. The dog you learn to forage in there. So we have an elderly Jack Russell who's losing his vision and he's losing his hearing. And so trying to do enrichment with him has been a little bit of a sticky wicket, right? But he still would love to hunt mice all day long. That would be his best day, would be hunting all day long. So I actually took your advice and did a ball pit. And he looked at me like I had lost my mind, but he then found every single morsel of food. He had a great time doing it. So if I tried it with an X pen and that was kind of cumbersome. So I got a little collapsible ball pit and we're going to try that later today. So thank you
Oh,
for
I'm
that great
excited.
idea.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So what are some other enrichment ideas? So do you even play hide and go seek with like toys in the house?
Mhm.
Perfect.
Yeah, toys in the house, or, get the little scent tins. You can get those little round scent tins, and once you've taught your dog how to search for a scent, you can hide those, and even some of those are really cool because they have, like, little magnets on the back of them, so you can stick them to the fridge, or you can stick them up underneath a table or something and make it a little bit hard, like, obviously, don't do it right away, but when your dog gets to the point where putting it on the table or putting it on, a chair or tucking it behind the garbage can, things like that start to get easy. There are lots of creative ways that you can level those games up that are, very, very simple. And also, another great use for the bathtub is hide and seek because you can pull that curtain closed and hide the item in the bathtub, and the dogs will find it. My dogs play hide and seek with me. So, like I'll put them in a sit stay and then I'll go hide. And one of my favorite places to go is in the tub, and I pull that shower curtain. And you bet one of those heads is going to come around the corner and be like, "I found you." It's fun when we can just be silly and act like kids with our dogs because I think that that's where they find the most joy is when we just kind of let it go.
Cooperative play is just so important, whether it's with our
Oh,
kids, our partners, our coworkers. My guy just went on a big car driving weekend up in the mountains, and one of the participants hid those little noisy crickets, those little teeny tiny like cranks. He hid them magnetically in everyone's car, and that was kind of the shtick the whole weekend. And it was Chris was saying it was really interesting to see people's responses. Like people who started out grumpy, like, oh, I can't believe somebody, blah, 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 whatever. By the end of the weekend, we're like, oh, I hope he hides another one on my car. I can't wait to find it. Right. And now Chris has been walking around with his little cricket friend, that's what I call it, in his pocket. And so randomly, we just hear crickets, which is hysterical to me. Now, I know there are some people who are sound sensitive who would be like, grr, I hate that. But adding that little bit of play even into an adult relationship of like joking about, hey, your cricket's going off, is I think we forget how to play sometimes as adults. And so having something a little bit silly kind of kind of helps. And I do wonder if dogs would do searches based on sound. Like, do they hear the sound and find the sound? I bet terriers would be all over it.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure that is something that you could absolutely teach your dog, use your nose, use your ears, and find the thing. And I'm sure that there are certain breeds like terriers that would get it, bloodhounds, things like that would get it a lot faster because they have those nice big ears. Something that I learned a while back that always still fascinates me is, a lot of people online will take videos of their dogs like tilting their heads, and it looks really cute, right? The dog looks curious. They're like, what's going on? But when a dog is doing that, they're actually moving the sound around inside their ear so they can get the fullness of the sound and understand how far away it is, what the noise actually is, the pitch, all of these things. And it's just wild to me how differently their ears and even their nose works than ours. So again, it's a little bit of curiosity and a little bit of understanding goes a long way.
I have a really cool phone app that allows you to see what a dog sees, right? So you can like take a photo and maybe I'll put some links up in the show notes of this is what we see, this is what the dog sees. And I often think that this is a really important piece. Like when I show customers, like, okay, so you threw the ball out in the grass, you took a picture of it, now you send it to me, and I show you the difference between what you see and what the dog sees. They're like, how does he ever find that? And I'm like, I know, right? So learning that like blue and yellow combinations are the most visible to your dog is super helpful. Where like red and yellow by itself kind of disappears a little bit. So it allows us to really grab a hold of like my dog has a very different view of the world than I do.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever watched dog TV, but I love to watch dog TV because you can tell which colors dogs can see because they're so good at really highlighting those colors that are more vibrant. And I love to watch my dog watch dog TV because he will sit there and just the whole time, and it's so fun to watch him because he gets excited about things because he can actually see them, and again, that's another area where if we just are a little bit more mindful, it that gives them such a good experience. You mentioned the car, which is another great free way to enrich your dog. If your dog likes the car. If your dog likes the car. Let me just say that twice because some people are just gonna rush out and put their dog in the car. Not all dogs like the car. Take your dog for a car ride. Roll the window down just a little bit. Don't let your dog hang their head out the window. I know a lot of people like to let their dogs hang their head out the window, but as a vet tech, I can tell you how many times I've seen people get in an accident and a dog's neck get broken because of that. Keep your dog's head inside the car. Please keep your dog's head inside the car. Put them in a harness or a kennel. Open the window a little bit and let them sniff. Stop at a park. Now open the window more. Let your dog sniff around and then maybe get out and walk around. But that smell that's circulating through the car, all of those things your dog can pick up. Somebody once explained dog scent like lasagna to me. And I thought that was the most fascinating description of it because when we smell the lasagna, we smell the lasagna, right? One whole piece thing. But your dog smells the cheese, smells the noodles, smells the ricotta, smells the sauce. It smells it in layers, which is not something that we experience as humans. But the dog will start, at the base of the scent and work their way up, or they'll start at the top of the scent and work their way down. And it's just such a neat thing to think about that if you can give your dog that experience where they can really fully enjoy that movement of their scent, it's such a cool thing. So using your dog's nose, allowing your dog to use their nose, teaching them scent games, giving them exploratory rides, new and exciting items from random places. So if you go on vacation and you come home with a new t-shirt, let your dog smell the t-shirt before you wear it or put it in the wash or whatever, because all of the scents that have collected in that t-shirt are completely foreign to your dog.
I'll tell you a funny story. So we have two dogs who are from Turks and Caicos. It's a breed group called Pot Cakes. They're village dogs or pariah dogs. And dear friend of mine, went to Turks and Caicos on vacation. So he collected up just a baggie of sand and sent it to me. And so our two dogs from Turks and Caicos both came off island before they were 12 weeks old. We put it out like in a tray, this sand, so that they could sniff it. One of our dogs was so excited and was like rubbing it. And I still get it out for him from time to time. The other dog went up, sniffed it, and went, no. He bailed and wanted nothing to do with it. And it was so interesting because then it, of course, made me wish that he could talk and tell me what that was about. With older dogs, I a lot of times will go hiking somewhere. And if my dog who used to enjoy hikes and safaris can't really do that anymore, like can't do the 3 miles, I just collect up bags of debris, like not debris like trash, but leaves and a little bit of dirt and some sticks and shove it in a paper bag, like a paper grocery bag, and bring it back home and then tear those bags open and let my dog explore the mountains in my backyard, which is most assuredly not in the mountains. And they're like mesmerized by it because what's in their backyard has kind of been in their backyard a long time and is boring. But then there's a new pile of leaves that smells like a waterfall, or a new pile of leaves that smells like, a hiking trail. It's just different and it's bringing new scent in.
Well, and that's another thing. And walks. People are like, well, walks can be enrichment. Yes, walks can be enrichment if you let your dog sniff and go at their pace. If you're going to go on an enrichment walk, a safari, whatever with your dog, don't worry about how far you go. Don't worry if you even get down the block. Let your dog decide where they want to go based on where their nose is telling them to go, and let them sniff to their little heart's content. I guarantee your dog will be more tired when you get home from that 20 minutes than they would be if you just rushed them around the block 3 times, because
Right,
they're
telling them they're
actually
not allowed to sniff.
engaging. Yeah, yeah. It's wild to me that people don't realize how important that is.
So let me talk. I'm going to talk just quickly and then I'll ask your strategy. So when someone says to me, well, I would love to do that, but my dog is a maniac on a leash, I'm like, great, let's start with food scatters in the grass, right? So put your dog on a line, maybe even in your fenced yard, do some food scatters in the grass. So you're encouraging your dog to sniff while on a leash. This is not about polite leash walking. This is about enrichment. And no, of course, I don't want your dog towing you to the corner like that. No one's advocating for that. But there are ways that we can safely do this while teaching a dog to begin to pay attention to, like, hey, the fact you're on a leash. Now, this does mean that as the handler, you're not keeping the leash tight. This is an agreement between dog and handler. I'm not going to pull on you and you're not going to pull on me. What's your advice when someone says, well, I would love to do a Sniffari dog trainer, but Emily, my dog is a maniac on the leash.
So I would actually go all the way back to the living room. I would get a rug, like a really good, like maybe a chenille rug or something like that, and I would attach my dog's leash to them, and I would let it hang out on the floor, and I would fill that mat up with treats. And then I would just drag the mat around the living room, around the dining room, maybe down the hallway, and I would let my dog explore. Maybe I would put multiple mats out too. That's another option. And I would let my dog explore with the leash on. That is where I would start. I wouldn't even be touching the leash. I wouldn't be handling the dog. I would be teaching them how to sniff and enjoy the sniffing before I even went a step farther than that.
And then how do you transition that outside?
How would I transition that outside? I would eventually, once the dog was really comfortable and I was able to hold on to the leash while we're exploring these things, with, as you said, no tension on the leash, I would move out to the backyard and I would do the exact same thing. I would put the mats in multiple places. I would drop the leash and I would let the dog explore in the fenced in area. Now, if you don't have a fenced in area, get a long line. That's your first thing to do so that you can give them a little bit more leeway, but still have the ability
Right.
to rein them in if you need to.
Right. And I found, like, playgrounds when school's out is a great place. Now, you do have
Tennis
to watch
courts
for
too.
rappers and stuff like that. So I police the area a little bit. But generally, kids' playgrounds are, and of course, clean up after your dog. Um, but it's often a really good place to sniff. And there's lots of little hidey holes that I can hide toys or I can hide food. And my dog can explore climbing on this or that or the other and checking things out. I also find that um, churches,
Yes.
when, like, the property that churches are on separate from, or office buildings, right? Like medical complexes, that it's kind of like a plaza, but it's all about different office buildings, especially if you have a dog who's reactive to other dogs. This is a really easy way to practice hide and go seek, to practice polite leash walking. You can go after hours if your dog has big feelings about strangers. It's great enrichment, and you can slowly work into there's more people around and your dog getting used to using those great leash manners and sniffing. And I use sniffing as a reward for walking nicely a lot. So I might ask my dog with treats to walk lightly next to me from my mailbox to my neighbor Tom's mailbox. And then I'm going to say, go sniff. So the dog learns, like, oh, it's the pre-Mac principle. When I do what mom wants, what makes mom happy, then I get the reward of doing what makes me happy. And I always say, if I do 2 minutes of walking and asking for the dog's attention, I'm going to give them probably 2 to 5 minutes of sniff time. And then I'm
Yeah.
going to say, are you ready? And when they check in, they get paid. And I say, okay, let's go. And that's the cue that says, okay, now we're walking nicely. We get to the corner. Yay, you were brilliant, dog. Go sniff. And now they're sniffing at the corner where every dog has dropped off email.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. Churches are phenomenal. I actually live right next door to a church that has a really massive property. So we have just kind of taken into, going out on our long line and exploring their property. And of course, there's lots of little animals and critters running around, and it's a big, huge field, and they have a garden that's fenced in so we can walk around the perimeter of the garden. But yeah, just walk along and to encourage sniffing, I'll throw a handful of treats while they're sniffing. Just keep sniffing, have a great time. And P mail is another thing too, right? I love that because somebody some I saw, I think it was gosh, what's the name of that? I can't remember what the name of it is, but they have a lot of little cartoon things that they do on Instagram all the time, and they're so cute. And she talks about P-mail in one of them, and it's, like, "Oh, George is sick," or, "Oh, Mimi has a friend with her this week," or, "Oh, this pee doesn't smell anymore. That dog must have moved away." I mean, that is information for your dog, and your dog is leaving a message when they join in on the crowd. So it's
Right.
just one of those things.
It's like the dog's version of texting.
Yeah,
Only
yeah,
it's a lot more information than a text, right? It's
yes.
health status and emotion and reproductive status and how big or little you are and what you had for dinner and all the things.
Yeah, I thought when I learned that about how dogs could tell, if a dog was in heat or if they were pregnant or all that kind of stuff just from the smell of the urine, I thought that was super fascinating.
So I love Dr. Ian Dunbar. I got to see him in a seminar and he was talking about so his PhD thesis was on the effects on behavior of spaying and neutering, specifically neutering male dogs, and what happens. And so, what he actually found happens is really different than what we all think. So, when we neuter a boy dog, his hormones will start to smell like a female dog who's pregnant, which of course we know men talk all the time about, and women too, about how a pregnant woman often has this amazing glow. Like she's incredibly beautiful during that reproductive time. So, what ends up happening and why it impacts dog behavior is that let's say Rufus and Rover hate one another, but they're always at the park at the same time. And they're both intact male dogs. And we neuter Rufus. What happens isn't that that really changes Rufus's behavior. He still knows he's a boy dog. But when Rover smells him, he doesn't think it's his arch enemy Rufus anymore. He thinks it is the very attractive, pregnant Rosie. So all of a sudden, Rover flirts with Rufus. And Rufus goes, maybe Rover isn't such a jerk. Maybe he really is a nice guy. And so he is less likely to get his back up about Rover, too. And that's how it changes the dynamic,
Mhm.
which was incredible to me. I'm like, this is a completely different way than how the lens that most of us use to view what's going on. And I think that that's a really beautiful blessing to dogs and people to say, okay, well, some things are somewhat similar, but a lot of things are really different.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is so fascinating because we are so similar biologically to dogs. We are like, I think that's like 98% like similar between humans and dogs, body organs and all the kinds of things. There's very few things that are different. Like, we're on two legs, they're on four legs. They have a tail, all the way their spine is positioned. But the differences are far, far, far less than the things that are alike. And again, that's one of those areas where I highly encourage people to, like think like your dog, think from your dog's perspective and try to find that communication between the two of you because that's what really enhances that connection and your play with them.
And really, like, one of the things I talk to families about who are like welcoming infants or toddlers into their home, even if you're grandparents and it's the holidays, is to get down on your hands and knees, as awkward as that is, and look at the rooms from the dog's perspective. Where are they being pinched in space? Um, I live with this every day. I'm 5'3". My guy is 6'4". He he tends to set things where I feel very crowded because things are lower and he's tall. So he doesn't feel crowded by it. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I feel like the walls are closing in. Um, and I think that happens to our dogs too. We tend to go, oh, there's lots of space. But if you get down on your hands and knees and you look at it from the dog's perspective, suddenly you see all those little pinch points where maybe the dog feels cornered, where up at human eyeball level, it doesn't look like they would be cornered.
Yeah, that's actually a really great perspective, especially for people who have moved and they're shuffling furniture around and things like that. Because your dog, they have their tail and they have their whiskers that kind of help guide them through spaces and things like that. But if you were having to be around on the floor like that, you would definitely think differently about your surroundings. That's something that I tell people all the time when I'm talking to them about not letting your dog become obese. Think about being a dog that is overweight, walk around on your hands and knees, and pretend that you're 9 months pregnant, and now you're an overweight dog. That is hard
Right.
on your back. It's hard
Uh-huh.
on your joints.
Hard
It's
on
hard
your
on your
neck.
neck. I mean, don't let your dog be obese. Don't let your dog be a 9-month pregnant woman crawling around on her knees. That's just unkind.
Right. Like we wouldn't do that to a 9-month pregnant woman. We'd be like, no, 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 you're not doing that. I'll do it. Like my knees are old. I refer to them as the good one and the other one. And I would still do it before I would let, my pregnant cousin be doing that. Like it's not okay. So I will say I've had a certain amount of luck with dogs that are afraid of the car, doing enrichment in the car with the car just
Yep.
parked. Right.
Yeah.
So I have a caravan because I'm a grandma. Um, Open up the side doors, open up the back hatch, utilize long lines, right? And teach the dog how to like run back and forth through the van and get in and find kibbles and hiding their toys or scent in the car so that the car's not moving. They don't have to worry about being motion sick. And sometimes I have to start with scent or food like 30 feet from the car because the dog's like, I'm not going close to that scary barf mobile, right? But pretty quickly we get them just exploring and going, okay, so maybe this isn't so bad. Um, and just lowering their adrenaline about the whole thing, their cortisol and their stress hormones, they start to even get better about riding in the car.
Yeah, I like to use Soda Pup has this really cool thing called a lick stick, and it's like a long spatula, and one of them, the one that I have is like a little beehive, but it's textured, and you can put peanut butter, pumpkin puree or whatever in there and then freeze that and then use that to kind of like give your dog something to lick while they're exploring the car, or just make a lick mat and let your dog chill out in the car and lick, because we know that when dogs lick, that is a self-soothing mechanism, and that brings those emotional levels back down as well. So even, getting them in and out, that's a great thing to do. But if you have a dog that's really scared, lure them in there with a little bit of food and just lay in the back of the vehicle with them while they enjoy their lick mat
Yeah,
first.
so I usually am using it for the dogs that their stomach turns off, right? They have an adrenaline dump, their stomach turns off. So using scent often is a good bridge because the dog's like, no, I've had some really major negative experiences about this and I'm not willing. But yeah, I do love a licky mat. It's wonderful. So you were a vet tech. Is there any science that utilizing a licky mat would actually reduce the impacts of nausea on the dog that's getting motion sick? Would that be an outlet that would help
That's
them feel
that's
better, or
an
would it make?
interesting question.
Because I get motion sick and eating is the absolute last thing I want to do. when
I
I'm
mean, I
motion
think
sick.
that if you talked to your vet, you could probably get some Serenia, or if they're a kind vet, they will prescribe you some Zofran, which is you can get over the counter as Odesterone, and that is an anti-nausea med that we take as people that can be given in the right amount of dosage to your dog, and that helps with nausea and vomiting and all that kind of stuff. So I think that would be a good opportunity if you have a dog that is that kind of reactive to the movement, to talk to your vet about getting that, because that would definitely help. And so you could put that on a lick mat or in some kind of chew or something to give them beforehand, and then work on, the traveling stuff, because that should definitely help.
So I'm going to give you a quick dog trainer answer. So adrenaline is a base, and when it hits the stomach, it sours the stomach, and that's part of, and it prepares the dog for fight, flight, freeze, or fool around, just like people. And I've had really good luck with giving a dog either one white jelly bean or one or two Smarties about 15, 20 minutes before we get in the car. So when that adrenaline dump happens, it hits sugar, which neutralizes the adrenaline.
Interesting.
So then the dog isn't getting, they might still be amped up and concerned. I'm going to use a body wrap. I'm going to use pheromone. I'm going to use Serenia. Like we're going to do all the things, but I'm also going to naturally like a little bit of ginger, right? A lot of dogs will eat a little bit of ginger, a little bit of candied ginger to just sweeten that stomach a little bit. So when that adrenaline hits, it's not quite so rough. I've not tried it with motion sickness, so I should try that the next time I'm in the car and see if
I'd be interested to know how that goes.
it
It's
would be
so
great
funny that you mentioned.
anecdotal evidence.
Yeah, it's so funny that you mentioned ginger, because my little dog Toby is the king of scavengers. He will eat anything
That doesn't
except
eat
for
him first.
ginger. Yeah, well, it does eat him too. Yeah, but he won't eat ginger. It's so wild. If I accidentally drop it on the floor or give him a
He's
little
like, not
piece of
that.
it, he literally is like, "No, what
That's
in the heck
gross.
do you think you're doing?"
That's cute. I love it. So do you have other enrichment that you'd like to talk about today? Because I know you are like the queen of enrichment, which I love.
I love enrichment. It's literally my favorite thing, because my dog Fitz, as I said, he's a busy guy. He's a big chunk border collie, and he's got feelings about things. He likes to be doing stuff all of the time. And it wasn't until I figured out how to properly balance play, enrichment, and teach him how to rest that he really became such a phenomenal dog. And I think that, the best thing about enrichment is that you can be creative. You don't have to spend money if you don't want to. One of my favorite things to do is create like an enrichment trash box. And so take your Amazon box, take your brown paper, take toilet paper tube rolls or paper towel rolls, and just kind of create a little magic box. Stuff everything with brown paper and treats. Stuff it inside of each other. Wrap it around each other. You can even I took like a soup container one time and I cut a hole in the top of it and I put treats in it. So they had to like roll it around. And now I've made basically a topple toy out of a soup container. And then I just throw them all in the box and put the box on the ground, and I let Fitz dig through it, and he'll shred everything in that box, and then he'll dig in the box and shred it up too. And it doesn't matter if it makes a mess, and it doesn't matter if he ruins something, because it's going to throw it in the recycling bin anyway.
Right.
And
It'll
it's just,
recycle anyway. As long
yeah,
as it's safe for the dog, I don't worry about it. So I always call those an adventure box. Somebody probably named it an adventure box and taught me, and I don't remember who it is. So shout out to whoever it is. I don't remember. But a lot of times, like single dog owners will put like a big soup bone in there or a stuffed frozen Kong or a no hide, like something really high value in the bottom. Right.
yep.
And a lot of times people do it outside so that the dog can make a giant mess and they can just go clean it up later. And it's like, it's going to take the dog 20 minutes I had a client once who had a dog who used to hunt with him a lot. And so he made a deer out of boxes and a sawhorse. And his old dog thought that that was the cat's meow, that he could go out there and tackle this pretend deer and tear up the adventure box and find all the things. And like they had a great time. And they used to do it pretty often for this dog who just was infirm enough that he couldn't go hunting with him anymore, but they still found a way to make it work.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just I think that's the other thing too, like, try all of the things, right? Like, don't just pick the one that you like, pick the ones that your dog likes. If you're doing the trash enrichment box and your dog is like, "Eh," don't do it again. If they like the lick mats or maybe they like hide and seek, or you could even do like a scent trail, which is another super fun one where you can like stuff a sock with some dog treats and then just kind of drag it through your house, drag it over things, drag it under things, and then, have it end in a bedroom. And don't obviously leave the sock, but dump that pile of treats that you drug around in the sock in a special place on the floor, and then watch your dog sniff their way up and over and under and around and through all the way around the house until they eventually get to the treat pile. I mean, it's just so many simple things that you could do. And again, not every dog likes everything. So experiment, try the swift paws, try the agility set, try the dig pool, try all of the things and figure out what it is that your dog likes. Maybe they like a flirt pole, get a flirt pole out, let them chase that and drag it around on the ground. Just uh, every dog is different. And it's so important, like when we go to school or when we have hobbies, I like to read books and I like to listen to music and go to concerts. Maybe you like to go to art museums and ride on boats. Who knows? Like, think about that with your dog too. Think about who your dog is an individual and try to cater to that. So if you have 2 dogs or 3 dogs or 4 dogs, they probably don't all like the same thing. So if you can put one in the bedroom with one activity and one out in the back room with another activity and then go outside with the other one for another activity and really give them each their own time, like that's the best thing that you could do for them. It's the kindest, most wonderful thing and they appreciate it.
Well, and so again, back to my old man, little dog, when he could hear, I would take him on a long line and we would go to where like the grass gets longer or back in the wooded part of our yard. And I would just whisper to him, "Where's the mouse? Did you find the mouse? Where is it? Where's the mouse?" There's not a mouse, but he doesn't
Yeah.
care. He'll spend 40 minutes looking for a mouse that's not there. Right? And it makes his heart sing. He's so much more a fulfilled dog when he comes back inside. So I didn't have to spend any money. We just went to like this little corner of the yard that has some trees and debris, and he can like move stuff out of the way and scritch around and see if he can find a fake mouse.
Terriers are such funny dogs. I have my little guy, he's an older dog too. He's 13 or 14 years old. And we had groundhogs this summer in our yard. And groundhogs dig ginormous holes. These groundhogs were like 20 pounds each.
Yeah.
We had 2 of them. And my little 11-pound dog tried to go down the groundhog hole. So
Yeah.
be careful with that. Don't let them do anything too crazy. But yeah, I let him sniff around the hole and I let him, after we even filled it in and everything with rocks and some dirt and everything after we had him removed, he would still go over there and look and try to get in there. And we also have chipmunks that live under the shed. And so he'll chase those too. And again, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, I don't think that even if he caught him, he probably couldn't do any damage because he's only got like 9 teeth. But if he wants to try, the enrichment keeps your dog's brain functioning, which keeps your dog young. You want your dog to not have dementia. You want your dog to not have Alzheimer's. You want your dog to be lucid and engaged with you, despite the fact if they can hear or see or any of that stuff. Don't let their mind go because that's I feel like is just unkind at that point. You're holding on to your dog and you're not enriching their life. Give them something to live for at that point for sure.
Well, and I honestly think enrichment allows me to monitor changes in my dogs as they age, right?
I
Do I
completely
do
agree.
I see that all of a sudden my dog isn't enjoying the same thing? So I don't know. Do dogs' noses wear out as they get old the same way their hearing and their vision does? So is, Mister's world getting more and more homogenized into stuff he can't smell? And then maybe instead of hiding cheese, I start hiding salmon that maybe has a little bit more scent to it for him.
Well, and it might not even necessarily be that they can't smell as well. It just might be like with humans, every 7 years, our taste buds change. So the foods that we crave or like, or all of that kind of stuff changes. Maybe dogs have something similar, like they know that scent, and maybe it's just not as appealing anymore because they've gotten that as their treat for the last 7 years. So
Right?
give them something stinkier and better, and that's definitely gonna be a whole new adventure for them.
Excellent. Well, you gave us some wonderful, amazing stuff today. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with the Your Family Dog podcast?
Sure, I would like to offer everyone a free copy of my enrichment ebook. It's called Paws, Brains, and Fun, and I'll give you the link so that everybody can go and download their free copy of it. I know that you downloaded a copy of it, so I'm sure you had time to dig through it, but it's about 70 pages of activities, ideas, games, different ways that you can modify these things to adapt them to the dog in front of you and really give you some basic ideas. And there's even a little video on YouTube that you can watch with a couple of these ideas in action. So you can go over there and check that out. And please, please, please feel free to reach out with questions or tag me in a video on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok if you do something, if you come up with something, you're inspired by the book. I love to see what you guys are creating and doing with your dogs because your idea could help other people. And that is just one of the most incredible things that we can do for each other as dog parents.
So do you find this enrichment? I am really sensitive to, I think parents often feel like they're not doing enough, right? And they are enough. Like being a parent is really hard. So I do try to find enrichment and things people can do with kids and dogs that incorporate kids into it so that the dog is pairing this really pleasurable experience with the kiddo. In some cases, as kids are getting older, giving kids the agency to, hey, what do you want to do with the dog today? How do you want to help prepare this stuff? I don't want to burden parents. I really want to bless them and help them um, really love their dogs and their kiddos and incorporate the family in the mix. Are When you're looking at your enrichment book, your ebook, is a lot of it really simple, quick stuff that families don't have to feel like, oh, I have to go buy all the supplies and do all the things.
Yeah, pretty much everything I talk about in the book can be, done at home for very low cost or no cost. There are some more expensive items in there, like the Swift Paws is a pretty big investment, but there is a discount code link in there so that you can get, I think, 10% off of it. And, various other items as well that you can get discount codes on. But I think that for me, somebody who lives on a budget, right? Like I'm a single pet owner by myself and I don't have kids, I don't have a husband or anything, and so I do everything on a budget. So whether you have kids or you don't have kids, I think that budget friendly is always best. And if you're thinking, "Oh, I would love to do an obstacle course in my house," you don't need to buy anything. Use your laundry basket. Use a tote that you store your dog's food in. Pull out the dining room chairs. Move the couch around. Use the table. All you have to do is scatter a little bit here and there. One of my favorite things to use is the colander, the noodle strainer for pasta, because you can flip it upside down and put treats underneath it. And that gives them, they have to figure out how to flip it over. That's super fun. And it didn't cost anything. And instead of giving them treats, if you feed kibble, use their kibble. Feed them their meal that way. That's such a much enjoyable way to eat your food than to eat it out of a boring old bowl or a plate. Like nobody wants to do that. I mean, if think about how dogs eat, you put it in a bowl, you put it in the corner and the dog stares at the wall while they eat. Does that sound exciting to you? It doesn't sound exciting to me. I wouldn't want to do that. Give them something to do instead. Engage their mind and let them play while they eat.
Now, I will say I have one dog who every time try to do enrichment with his regular food, he just looks at me like, "Why are you making breakfast hard?"
That's
Right?
my little guy.
But he will totally work for cheese, right?
Mhm.
So I can use shredded cheese in a food scatter and then it works. Like that's valuable enough. He's not going to do it for kibble. He's like, meh, I don't. And my dogs get really good kibble. He likes his kibble, but it's still just kibble. If it's cheese or if it's a little something special, that makes him very, very happy.
Mhm. And that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but there are a lot of dogs out there who just
Just
wanna,
kibble works.
they don't care. They're totally fine with it. So, yeah, and so sprinkle some cheese in there if you need a little extra. That's totally fine. It's not gonna hurt anybody.
I had a mama who used to take her shaker can of like the Kraft Parm that's so crazy fine, and that's what she would sprinkle out in the yard. And her dog would be out there for hours finding those
I
molecules of
bet.
parm. And it was that her dog has started out a little heavy. So she wanted him moving, but she didn't want to stress his joints by like putting him on a pacer or taking him for a jog. Like she didn't think that was fair. So she she did this little shaker of Parmesan cheese. And that was enough to motivate him. And he would move around a little bit more. And we cut food back and got him on some food that maybe wasn't quite so carb heavy, and suddenly we saw weight changes, and he was then able to do other stuff.
That's incredible. What a funny story, but such a good idea. Such a good idea.
It is. It was a great idea, and it was one I would have never, ever, ever thought of. Because I would have thought like, oh, trying to find those tiny little her dog is totally happy doing it. And I do share with family, like shredded cheese is a boon. Like it's you can buy low fat, like you could buy like the lactose free, right? Like the for people who like you if your dog doesn't do well with lactose, okay, cool. You can get the lactose free cheese. Um but it's really interesting how it helps as much as it does.
Yeah, it's always some little thing, that I haven't run into a dog yet that doesn't like cheese, but you can absolutely do. I'm sure there's so many other things out there if you really, kind of sit down and navigate your way through it. I mean, just give your dog a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I mean, obviously, there's things that dogs can't have, like raisins
Raisins.
and grapes and onions and things like that. But there are a lot of fresh foods out there that your dog can have. And that's something that I would love to come back and talk to you about again.
I would love that. Yeah. One of my dogs, the one who doesn't like breakfast to be difficult, if I throw blueberries in his bowl, he acts like they're tiny little death berries. But if I squish them and put them in low fat Greek yogurt, oh, then he's all over it. So I just make him a little parfait. And that's how
That's
he
totally
gets his
fine.
blueberries because he thinks blueberries are the work of the devil when they're in a bowl. So just because a dog, it's not quite their thing. Like in his case, he's a very soft mouthed dog. And so he wasn't breaking the blueberries. So he was like, what is this? This is like weird. Like there's no flavor to this. Um, Now, strawberries, when I have extra strawberries left over, he's all over that, right? He thinks that's phenomenal. So, and here in Georgia, we can grow blueberries. So that's kind of the nuts because you're going to get a bumper crop and you're like, what do I do with all these blueberries? I got them coming out of my eyeballs. Um, I can be like, yes, we will joyfully take your blueberries and my dogs will help enjoy them.
Well, and something too that you can do, a lot of people don't realize, it's just so simple. Dogs don't always It's actually a pretty common thing. Dogs don't like to chew on them, like the weird bouncy textures. They get weird about it sometimes, and that's a lot of fruit, right? So take those fruit and put it in a blender
Hmm.
and make little frozen treats out of them. Just
Yep.
freeze them in little ice cube trays, and then your dog's getting that fruit. Or, like you did, mix it with the Greek yogurt. I mean, that's just so simple. A lot of the lick mat recipes that I use are fruits. And we mentioned this earlier about cheese and lactose, but most dogs are allergic to lactose. So you should be careful how much cheese you give to your dog. I mean, obviously don't give them like an entire bag in a sitting or anything like that, but If your dog is gassy after cheese, that's why. That's why.
Yeah, and I don't know, I'm kind of all things in moderation, right? Like,
Yes.
just be mindful. And again, like, I'll buy a rotisserie chicken, we'll have it for dinner, and then I pick all those little itty bitty pieces of chicken off, and then I might use that either to make soup or to make something that I'm gonna utilize with the dogs, and I've totally pureed it and made dog treats out of it, just, like,
Yeah.
air dried it, like, not freeze drying, but just dehydrated it,
Mhm.
flashed it's already cooked, flashed it in the oven, and now we've got great dog treats that I know what it is. It's just chicken, and the dogs are really happy, or it's just beef, or it's just venison, and the dogs love it. And
Yes.
I can that food's not going to waste, and my dogs are enjoying the snot out of it.
Yeah, and single ingredient treats are the best way you can go. I mean, I actually have a free guide on how to dehydrate your own dog treats too. So
Oh,
that's
nice.
also on my website. I can give you the link for that as well.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
I walk you all the way through the prep, whether it's fruits and veggies or if it's meats or organs or whatever. It was a big, huge undertaking that I did earlier this year before I got my nutrition certification. And we keep a jar of dehydrated treats at all times, and let me tell you what, the second that I open that jar, my dogs know that the fun
Oh,
is coming.
yeah. I
Those are the
dehydrate
good
sweet
ones.
potato for them. You would think I'm giving them gold. They just
Okay,
think
but
it's
isn't
amazing.
that the funniest thing in the whole world to watch dogs eat dehydrated sweet potatoes?
Well,
Because 'cause
they
they're
don't
like,
know what it
"Crunch,
is at
crunch,
first. They're
crunch."
like, "Why are you giving this to me? Like, this is weird." And it's a weird texture, and dogs are weird about texture. Like, they won't eat
Mhm.
just anything. But once you get them started, then they're like, "Oh, this is like, I like this." So I find a lot of things they have to have like itty bitty pieces and think about it a little bit. And then they're like, "Okay, no, I do really like this. Like, I'm down with
Yeah,
this."
yeah.
They're funny. Um,
Dogs are funny.
like zucchini and blueberry. My dogs like that
Yes.
combination.
Yes, mine
Well,
too.
I mean, my neighbor's giving away giant zucchini all the time. So being able to grind it up and puree it, make it into something for the dogs, like they're like, okay. I even make the zucchini noodles for them sometimes because it's funny to watch them eat noodles with no
It
thumbs.
is. Let me tell you a little secret about vegetables. Dogs get zero, zero nutritional value from vegetables that are uncooked. Cook your dog's vegetables. Bake them, steam them, boil them, and
Blanch
then
them.
puree them, blanch them, whatever. Give them to your dog. Your dog is not going to get any nutritional value from a carrot that you pull out of the refrigerator. But if you cook that carrot, your dog gets 100% of the nutrients out of the carrot. So that goes for leafy greens, everything.
And I would say, I have had dogs who had a hard time digesting carrot, like that resulted in a little bit of digestive unrest.
Yeah,
Um,
it can.
But often, if you cut it and if you cook it, that goes away.
Yep.
So I think it has to do with breaking down that outer cell wall.
Yes. Yes. That's how a lot of it is that their bodies just push it through if they can't digest it. And that's why, a lot of dogs, like you'll see like pieces of their kibble and stuff still in their feces because their body's just not breaking it down the way that it needs to break down. So they just push it out, which is good because if their body isn't processing it and they keep it in there and they keep trying to process it, you're literally taking years off your dog's life.
Right. Well, and I often say corn is about as digestible for dogs as it is for us.
It just
Right.
goes right through.
We're like, there's many a poop joke about corn. So, well,
There
Emily,
it is.
thank you so much. And I can't wait to have you back to talk about nutrition another time because I think that boy, that's like the third rail in dogs. Like, whew.
Yes.
And there's so many questions. And you're right. Once you start to educate yourself about nutrition with our dogs, you're like, man, I'm mad at everybody now.
Well, and not only that, but, I was a vet tech for a really long time, and I, fed certain brands of dog food because that's what the veterinarian office does. And when I started learning all of the things that I've learned about supplements and food and this and that and the other thing, It did. It made me mad at a lot of people, especially a lot of business in the industry because, that's really about making money and not about having healthy dogs.
Well, so I think to be fair to vets and other medical professionals, they can't learn everything. They can't.
No.
And it was really helpful to me to learn to recognize that medical, whether it's veterinary medicine or human medicine, is geared toward solving a problem. It's not geared toward building ideal health. Those are two really radically
Yeah.
different things. And
Yeah.
so, like when I went through cancer treatment, I was glad that they were treating a disease process that I desperately needed help with. But now that that ship has sailed and we've taken care of that, now my job is to find practitioners who help me build ideal health. For me
Yeah.
and my dogs and my cat, I'm always trying to build ideal health and longevity. And I have found Dr. Karen Becker and the Forever Dog series phenomenally helpful and a great, easy starting point to say, okay, so maybe I can only afford this today, but this is how I can augment what I'm feeding my dog to really bless them and give them some broccoli, give them some blueberries so that they've got those good antioxidants, so that they're getting I can add some chicken thighs when they're on sale. I can Instapot them. I can grind that up and or shred it. I can add that to my dog's intake if my dog doesn't have a sensitivity to chicken and like richly bless them. Just give them
Yes.
extra meat and to do with as they see fit. When I do raw, and I'll be interested to see what you think about this when we have you back on, but when I do raw, I do cold pasteurized freeze dried. I'm I'm really hesitant with just my handling, kids handling raw food. Like, I do think it's important to really, there are a lot of people who don't wash their hands after they feed the dog. And I'm like, please do that. Like, please wash their bowl after every meal. You wouldn't want to eat off the same plate. You wouldn't want to drink out of the same water glass without washing it in between. So, washing your dog's bowl, washing your dog's water bowl, changing that water out all the time. Again, I wouldn't set water out on the counter overnight and then go back to drinking it. I would rinse that out and clean it, put new in, and then start again. So I can't wait to have you on to talk about that. Maybe we'll do that in another month or so.
It's gonna be super fun to talk about. I will comment that you do have to be a very meticulous person if you're going to feed raw. I feed completely raw to both of my dogs, and it is a whole process. I prep for 28 days at a time because we rotate proteins every single month, and it literally takes probably 6 or 7 hours every time I do it, and that includes, clean up and put away and all that stuff. So
Right.
you really have to be set on that, and
So
and
so
you
that's where
have
I
to be
think
prepared.
like Noble Pet Foods has a phenomenal product. Their cold pasteurized freeze dried raw is amazing. The digestibility is like in the 90s. It's amazing. Um, and that makes it a lot easier for families. And by the
Yeah,
way, if you go to Noble Pet Foods, you can use the coupon code SIT happens, like to sit in a chair happens, and you'll get 15% off. So shout out to Noble for giving us a nice coupon code.
there we
Um,
go.
but I know a lot of and that's great because you can travel with freeze dried, you can hydrate it or not, you can treat it as a biscuit, you can shove it in a topple. You can use these foods to augment other foods, which is what I do because my budget doesn't allow me to feed all of my dogs the way I would like to.
Mhm.
So we augment and I make it a little bit better. And if I'm always making it a little bit better, that's great. Right.
That's what
I don't
matters.
have to spend 7 hours cooking in the kitchen. I can imagine every mama is like, wait, what? No. Right. There will be a time in our lives when we can do that, but I want to make it easy too.
Yeah. Yep, and that's what I do with my nutrition programs is I help you set up a meal plan that works for you and your individual dog, so that, it's convenient and that it's easy. And we find, if we have to find a brand of food that works for you because you're doing half kibble and half raw, or maybe you're doing half freeze dried and half whatever, that's what's important. And I do a lot of research on brands because when we start traveling around in the RV, I'm not going to be able to do raw all the time. It's just not going
But
to be a thing that
you
works.
can if it's freeze dried,
Yeah,
right? Because it doesn't
exactly.
weigh anything. It's easy to store. So Dr. Brian Yamkas, who originally created the formula for Noble, and he wrote 4 of the chapters of the veterinary desk reference on canine nutrition. He's an acquaintance. Like, I can text him and ask him questions. And he really does help me support families. They even have a vegetarian form for the people who maybe their dog is struggling with some stuff. Now, I know that cats are obligate carnivores, dogs are not. I personally probably would not. I would have to have a lot of information to be comfortable with feeding my dog um, vegetarian. I'm not sure that they'd get all their needs met, but I would trust Ryan to explain it to me, right? So I really love companies that are very transparent, who have a human you can talk to and ask your questions and really find out, like, dig into, is this good or bad? I also understand that the average mama is not going to take the time to do that. And I
Yeah.
understand that. When I had 3 kids, I wasn't doing that either. So sometimes just having the information presented and going, okay, I can trust that and move forward. Ryan was really great. He explained that if you augment your dog's food up to 50% with other stuff, you will see a coat change almost immediately if there's a problem. It doesn't take very long. So if you've got something wrong, you're going to know your dog's coat is going to feel different. Likewise, if you're doing really right, your dog's coat is going to improve.
It's gonna be so soft. I can't even begin to tell you the difference that we went through, and how much softer and how much shinier and how much less shedding when we switched over. It was crazy. And to your point, the company that I got certified through is called Feed Real, REAL. And they actually have a program for pet parents who are interested. It's $149. And I think you can use Straight Up Dog Talk, or I have a link for that too. And you can get into their program. And they teach you like all of these random things, basically, that help you figure out how to put your dog's meal together. And it's really very, very interesting. And again, it does kind of walk you through, lightly cooked or raw versus freeze dried versus dehydrated, all those things. And I think the thing for me that was the scariest, which you mentioned earlier, was the amount of carbohydrates in dog food and how much filler there is in dog food. And again, why we have overweight dogs, because
Well, and also
carbohydrates do a number.
there are not cheap dog foods anymore. Like, prices go up on everything. So I want to make sure that I'm feeding something clean enough that the vast majority is staying in the dog, not that
Mhm.
it's ending up in the backyard. And when I've had a client who switched to raw, they're always stunned at how the poops suddenly shrink and break down in the rain.
Yep, it's crazy, and it doesn't smell as bad either.
Right, because the dog utilizes it all. So
Mhm.
we'll definitely get that booked so we can talk about it, because we're over time already. Emily, thank you so much for just being buttered unicorn breath and coming on the podcast today and spending your precious time with me. Shout out to Emily. I had every kind of technical difficulty that I could have had, short of being hit by a meteorite, last Friday when we tried to record. And I'm so grateful that she was willing to be my ride or die on that, and to come back today and to revisit it so that we got a really great high quality podcast for you. So Emily, thank you so much. I'll send you the link. We'll get you booked to talk on nutrition soon, because I think that's amazing and something that all of us, I think, are paying more and more attention to, um, so that we can vote with our dollar, that we can hold companies responsible, to feed our dogs well, instead of just filling them up. The same way that most of us want manufacturers of human foods to also feed us healthy, not feed us poison. So, again, thank you so much. And I look forward to having you back soon.
Me too. Thank you.
That's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for spending part of your precious day with us. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to follow, rate, subscribe so that you never miss an episode. We'd love to hear from you. Connect with us on social media or email us at yourfamilydogpodcast@gmail.com. We'll see you soon.